Welcome to day 8 of the Anxiety Cure Crash Course. My name is Justin Cohen, and I am so excited that you are here today because that tells me that you are truly following through on your commitment. Right? We are 80% of the way through, and why this is so critical is because what we're doing is rewiring our brain. That happens when we create a new habit. Yeah, and when you take this time of your day, what you're doing is you are focusing on your own well-being. And as we know, this affects every area of your life, your relationships, your finances, your business. Yeah, it all comes to our minds, what's going on between our ears. And yet, while we all know we've got to train our bodies, we just don't have the same realization, most of us, that we've got to train our minds too. And that's what you're doing here. You are training your mind. We're becoming mental athletes. Yeah. And yes, this is just the beginning, but what you've really shown is that you are holding yourself to a higher standard, following through. Yesterday, we spoke about the importance of action, right? So much therapy is about what's going on in our heads, our thoughts, and yes, that's important. We're going to be getting into that today. But often what's neglected is behavior, what we actually need to go out there and do in the world. And as we know, one of the most powerful ways to crush any fear is feel the fear, do it anyway, right? And through the 5-step process that I'll teach you in the Transcender program, you'll actually learn how to overcome any fear, yeah? Because it's really about unlearning. Yeah, unlearning, and there is a 5-step process to do that. But you know that action is not always enough. It's not always what you do. Sometimes we're able to take action and we still have emotional distress and we still don't feel great. We still have anxiety, and part of that is because, remember, fear is a response to real threats, right? So maybe there is a real challenge. Yesterday, when you focused on your challenge and you asked yourself, what can I do about it? You're focusing on that specific challenge and getting out there and taking action. And I hope that you took your action. Remember that challenge to actually take some action within the next 24 hours. I really do hope that you did do that because that's really, really important. But again, that's not everything, is it? Yeah, you know that it's not just the external challenge, it's what's going on in our own minds, right? So the fear is to a of a real threat, anxiety is to a perceived threat, right? As we see the little fishy there, right? There could be a shark, but he could just be scared about the shark, right? Now, if there is a real possibility of the shark coming, that might be legitimate, but most of the time with anxiety, we exaggerate, we catastrophize, we totally amplify the threat beyond what it is. And how do we do that, folks? We do that with our thoughts. Remember yesterday we discovered that thinking maze, what I call the thinking maze of worrying, anxiety, and rumination, war, right? Where we get stuck in our thoughts. And what these thoughts do is that they amplify the threat, right? So as long as you're talking to yourself about how bad something might be or could be, right? They amplify, but it's also a form of avoidance, right? Because as long as you're worrying and playing out different scenarios, you're actually not facing the core issue in and of itself, right? So this overthinking is a form of avoidance that increases anxiety, right? It actually raises the alarm, and it also raises our perception of threat. So we've got to find a way to deal with that. So yes, there are even people who are able to take action, but they're still emotionally distressed. And I know some of these people are what I call SAP, successful and privately distressed. You might be one of them, somebody who's actually able to take a lot of action out there in the world, but still don't feel great. Well, that's got to do with your thinking. Now, remember I said there were 3 strategies that we could use to overcome emotional distress and actually create not just emotional transformation but life transformation. Number 1 is action, right? Really important. Yeah, we got to do it, but again, not necessarily enough. Number 2 is what I call reinterpretation. And reinterpretation, and this is what I call the art of life, so action, reinterpretation. Tomorrow I'm going to share with you the 3rd one, but reinterpretation has to do with the content of our thoughts. Now, this insight is epitomized in a therapy called CBT, right? Which is the idea that our thoughts create our emotions and ultimately our actions. And I can tell you, I tried CBT. It's certainly a lot more effective than depth therapy when you go back to your childhood and relive that over and over and over again. But it was not quite the cure. However, there's valuable insight. And the truth is, it goes back far beyond CBT. This goes back to King Solomon, who said, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. The Buddha, there's nothing that can disturb us as much as our own thoughts. Yeah? Epictetus, the Roman philosopher, it's not things that disturb us, but our thoughts about them. And my favorite, Hamlet. Shakespeare's Hamlet. There's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so, right? I mean, thoughts are really just an interpretation. Why is it that two people go through the same hardship, the same difficulty, let's say a similar divorce or bankruptcy or even health issue, and the one is just depressed and anxious and on the floor, right? And the other one is, actually pretty excited about looking for new opportunities. They're positive, they're optimistic, they stay, pretty upbeat. They're able to look on the bright side, yeah? And it really comes to what? The interpretation, right? What does that tell us? It's not what's going on out there. It's our interpretation of what's going on out there, which determines how we will feel. And interestingly, often how we will act. Because if your interpretation says everything's awful, I've gone bankrupt, my business is over, I may as well give up, that interpretation means that you will not take action, right? But interpretation that says, okay, wow, this is pretty tough, but you know what? Hey, the best thing that ever happened to David was Goliath. Yeah? That adversity is the way that life educates us, right? This is where I learn and grows. The Dalai Lama says, when you lose, don't lose the lesson. Yeah? And if I take that interpretation, boom, then I start to learn the lessons. Don't get bitter, get better. Don't get frustrated, get fascinated. Why didn't it work? Yeah? As they say in Silicon Valley, fail fast, fail often, right? So those setbacks are actually stepping stones if we see them in that way. So today's mental reconditioning process is a question that we ask ourselves. I want you to write down that challenge. It could be a challenge from yesterday. It could be the same one or a different one. Doesn't matter. In one line. Remember, don't tell a story. Don't try. Ask yourself, why those whys. Believe me, you'll find a reason, right? Those whys are actually not particularly helpful. That's why often a lot of depth therapy gets stuck in the whys. Yeah? Actually, we're going to deal with how things are right now. So just write down your challenge. Again, same from yesterday or different, up to you, big, small, any challenge that you're not feeling great about. Because we're going to affect some mental alchemy here, and I'm going to show you how we can transform this. Okay, I hope you've written that down on your computer, on a piece of paper would be good. Papyrus, if you don't have, or I don't know, you could engrave it. No. Okay, so here we go. The question is, drum roll please, what is good about it? Now I know some of you are thinking, Justin, you don't know what's going on in my life. There's nothing good about this. Okay, my friends, this question has been asked and answered about the Holocaust by Jews, right? By Jews. So if you can ask and answer this question about the Holocaust, believe me, you can ask and answer it about anything that is going on in your life. Yeah? Anything. Now, when you think about this question, what is good about it? You could think about how it could have even been any worse. Yeah? Could have been worse. You could think about what you can learn from it, how you can grow as a person. Yeah? If it's some sort of failure, well, failure, Bill Gates said the biggest impediment to progress is success, because success makes us complacent. Failure is a bit of a kick in the pants. Yeah? He says success seduces smart people into thinking they can't lose, right? So when you do lose, again, what can you gain? What can you learn? How can you grow from this? I want you to write down 5 things. Do not stop until you've written down 5. 5 things, okay? This is really important because you want to flood your brain, right? Remember, you've had this negative interpretation for so long. It's time to shift that. It's time to change it, okay? So that's why you need 5 things at least, preferably even more. We've got limited time here, right? So write down 5 things. What is good about this? What can you learn from it? How can you grow from it? Powerful question, this. So we change the content of our thoughts. Good. Give you a few more moments for that. Alrighty. 5 things. What is good about this? We're going to shift this interpretation, right? It's all that negativity, that pessimism that creates anxiety, that threat amplification, right? About how bad things are, how bad I am, how bad my relationship, how bad my business, how bad, yeah? No, it's time to look at what's good. What's good? And yes, maybe the relationship is bad. Maybe you do need to get out. Well, that's good. That it's that sort. Maybe you get, as Barack Obama used to say, never waste a good crisis. Yeah, that crisis is there to shift you, to get you out of there. Yeah, because it's so sore. It's like, now it's time to leave. Okay. So I know some of you are in some pain, right? Okay, what's good about it? what's good is that maybe this is what you needed to get out. What is good about it? Good. Now, my bet is you can already feel the difference here. You can already feel that this thing, nothing's actually changed, right? But what has changed is your interpretation. And by changing your interpretation, ultimately, you can change your behavior and you can change how you feel. So this is really powerful, okay? This is really powerful. And the one interpretation, I hope you've written down 5 things. If you haven't, you're not quite there yet, do it after the session. Continue after the session. Make sure you've got 5 things because this is really going to fundamentally change things for you. And when you are in your life, start to ask yourself that question, what is good about it, right? What is good about it? Now, there's one other interpretation I need to share with you that's really important. One of the things that we know about people who heal emotionally versus those who don't is the ones who heal emotionally have what we call a growth mindset, a growth interpretation. They believe that the brain can change and grow, they can develop, they can break through. If they roll up their sleeves, take action, find a solution, implement, they can move forward. People who do not heal have a fixed mindset. They believe how they are is how they were born, right? It's their genes, it's the trauma, it's the emotion, it's the chemical imbalance. It's never going to change. So they don't do anything. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? If you don't believe you can, you don't. If you do believe you can, you at least go out there and give it a go. So this is the most important interpretation that you need. Now, here's what we know. The latest neuroscience shows us that the brain is plastic, not in the paper bag sense, but plastic in the sense that it is malleable, it changes. Yeah? And so throughout adult life, the brain continues to grow new neurons, connections between neurons, the genes that switch on and off those neurons. And in fact, much of what we're doing here, if you take this on as a habit, is going to change the neural wiring of your brain. Isn't that exciting? You're doing this by taking on this habit. And if you continue this habit, continue taking it beyond these 10 days, right, you will be able to create real change, right? Real lasting change. Yeah? So I want you to know that a growth mindset is not only essential for your transformation, it's also the truth, right? Because the latest neuroscience shows us this is exactly how the brain works. It grows, it develops, if we are willing to do what you have shown yourself willing to do. Make this commitment, take on this daily training, yeah, and be there for yourself. You can shift your emotional well-being and you can absolutely shift your life. That interpretation is critical to success. So I said to you there were 3 strategies here that we were going to be using. And these 3 strategies all have their place. And this comes from Deborah, who's used these strategies. She says, using these strategies to face my fears and concerns, using these strategies has made a huge difference with a personal matter. By applying them, I was able to overcome and take control. And thanks to you, I'm actually reading this along there with you, your work and methods have been life-changing. So a lot of people have been applying these strategies and really achieving tremendous results. I really want to encourage you to do that too, to bring this into your life, to make this part of your life. And in fact, I've created what I call the 5 Master Question Coach, which is 5 powerful questions that you can use to break through virtually any challenge, personal, business, relationship, emotional, whatever it is. And I'll be telling you more about that in the next day or 2. Now, as powerful as reinterpretation is, it is not enough. Okay, that's why there are 3 strategies, right? We've got action and reinterpretation. I call this the art of life, right? These are these 3 strategies that we need: action, reinterpretation. I got to tell you, I was somebody who was able to take a lot of action. I was somebody who generally had a very positive, optimistic, grateful interpretation, but my anxiety was not able to be dealt with through those 2 strategies. They were helpful. They were definitely helpful. They got me up to take action and find that solution. They kept me upbeat and positive so that I didn't get demoralized and despairing. So they're very important. But the thing that closed it for me was what I'm going to share with you tomorrow. This really, truly was my cure. This is what I cannot wait to share with you tomorrow. The 3rd of those 3 strategies. Until then, remember, no matter what you're going through, ask yourself, what is good about this? What can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? And I'll see you back tomorrow.